Okay. So here's a problem like one from the most recent assignment, the 1.5 assignment. Click them all close, please, all the way. Everybody up here. So let's quickly just go through, review the steps. Probably wouldn't hurt. Just do one of these together. Then I want to show you how to put in the answers, because there's one of these that's a little bit strange. So what would I do to solve this? You've got to distribute. You have to simplify first, don't I? I've got to distribute because I've got two r's here. I don't have a single r. So what am I distributing here? The -2. So I'm going to distribute that whole thing, and here I'm just distributing the 7, obviously. So I get 42 minus what? Okay, so minus 10r minus 20, very good. It's greater than or equal to 7r minus
49.
No, 63, there you go, okay? So let's combine like terms. What if I add up the 42 and the -20? 22 minus 10r is less than or equal to 7r minus 63. So where am I gonna, I've still got two r's, where am I gonna push the variables this time? To the right, okay. So we'll add 10r to both sides. Okay, that's going to remove the variables from the left. It pushes the variables to the right. So where do I want to push the numbers now? We just want to do two things at once. To the left, good. So I'll add 63. And I end up with, on the left, I've got 85, less than or equal to, and on the right I've got 17r, right? Last step. Divide by 17, good. So what's that give me then? If I divide by 17, I get r on the right and I get 5 on the left. So how do I want to maybe say that? Instead of saying 5 is less than or equal to r, how should I probably say that answer?
R is greater than or equal
There you go. So we're going to say r is greater than or equal to 5 is answer 1 in Moodle. They want it entered as an inequality, right? For part 2, answer 2, on this assignment, they want it entered, same problem, but they want that answer written using interval notation. Okay? Now, interval notation, you might remember from yesterday, interval notation is related to the number line, isn't it? How would I graph that? If that's 5, closed dot going to the right. Do we agree? I don't even have to do that, I can do it in my head. So for part 2, if I want to write this using interval notation, then I know I've got a left endpoint at 5, and the right endpoint is what? Infinity. Okay, what has to go there? Parentheses. And what goes here? Bracket, because it's solid, because we're including the endpoint, right? So now how do I enter that in Moodle? That's what I want to show you. So here's that problem in Moodle. Same problem. So I'm just going to go down here and open up these guys, right? So I wanted to do r is greater than or equal to 5. So I enter it just like that. R is, go up and pull down this menu, greater than or equal to 5. That's pretty straightforward, isn't it? Down here, though, this is a little trickier. So what we wanted to do here, remember, is we wanted to have, on the left-hand side, we wanted square brackets, right? So whatever we want on the left is what we're going to start with. So I'm going to open up a set of brackets. And I can just type a bracket, or I can go up and grab them from up here if I want to. Either way. And then we had a 5, whoops. We had a 5, comma, infinity, right? Let me make this a little bigger. 5, comma, infinity. But what's the problem with that? I need parentheses on the right. So all I've got to do, when I'm right in front of the bracket, I can, by typing a right parenthesis, I'm going to replace the bracket. So I'm just going to hit shift parenthesis and look what it does. Okay, and I get, that way I get square on the left and round on the right. And I could, if I needed it the other way, I would have started with round parentheses on the left and typed a square one on the right, and it also would have worked. Make sense? Okay, so that's issue A. Okay, that's dealt with. Okay, the other thing I wanted to show you is how to use, I showed you the other day, but let's look at maybe one more quick example, because I feel like people aren't taking advantage of this as much as they could. It would really help you to take advantage of this a little bit more. If we go back to the assignment 1.4, where we're solving absolute value equations. Let me pull up a sample problem. Let's do a really easy one. Let's do one not quite that easy. Actually, I want to do one of these. Let's do this guy right here. I think that's the one. Oh, darn it. Okay. Okay, let's look at this one. Okay. So if I got an absolute value equation, let's think back and review what's my strategy for solving an absolute value equation. What do I have to do first? Simple. Okay. What do you mean? Okay, good. So the first part of our strategy is isolate the absolute values, right? So that's always the first thing we're trying to do. Number one. Isolate the absolute value. What do I have to do to both sides to isolate the absolute value? Divide both sides by 3. Good. And so if I divide each side through by 3, I'm going to get, the 3's are going to cancel here, and I'm going to get the absolute value of 4x minus 16 is equal to, if I divide both parts by 3, what do I get? 6x plus 6. Okay? Once I isolate the absolute value, then what? Say it again. It's going to go away, but remember, we're going to get two equations out of this. Whatever's inside the absolute value could equal two different things. It could equal what? It could equal that, right? Or it could equal negative that. So we got to write those two equations down. Here's where we're going to get rid of the absolute value equation so we can do regular algebra. But we're trading it for two regular equations. So I'm going to write it this way. Absolute value equation becomes two regular equations, right? So whatever's inside is either going to equal positive 6x plus 16 or 6, you're right, sorry. Or whatever's inside, whatever's in there, is going to equal negative the whole answer, right? So I'll have negative the quantity 6x plus 6. And then I would just solve both of those equations. Well, that's just a 4x minus 16. So I just have to solve those two simple equations, right? How about over here? What are the steps to isolate the x? Where am I going to push the x's? To the right. I'll subtract 4x. So I'm going to push the numbers the other way, right? I'll subtract 6. And so one answer I get is negative 22 equals 2x, that's a 6, it's hard to read. So if I divide by 2, what do I get? Good. So x equals negative 11 is one solution. Over here, if I'm going to distribute the negative and get 4x minus 16 equals negative 6x minus 6, now I'm going to push the x's where? To the left. Add 6x, which means I'll push the numbers to the right. And so I end up with 10x equals 10. So, okay, so here's the part I wanted to remind you about then. So if, my answers were, remember these because I'll forget, negative 11 and 1, right? Okay, here's the part I want to show you. So in the Desmos Scientific, I'll give you one more example of how you can use this to your great advantage here. And if I were you, I would just Google that and then bookmark it, because you're going to use it a lot. Usually I'll remember to put it in there. This time I didn't. So the expression on the left, if we start off, it's just 3 times, there's absolute value right there. 3 times the absolute value of every place I have an x, I'm just going to open up a set of parentheses where I can plug in the numbers I want to plug in. So I've got 4 times, open up some parentheses, and for the first one I'm plugging in negative 11, right? So I had 3 times the absolute value of 4 times x, that's what I've got, and I've got to subtract 16. Minus 16, and look what I get for my answer then. When I plug in negative 11 into the left side of the equation, I get 180. So now let's check to see if the right side gives us the same thing. 18 times, let's open up parentheses to plug in our number. It's a negative 11 plus 18. Are they the same? No, one's positive and one's negative. So that tells us that over here, that negative 11 is an extraneous solution. That one doesn't work, right? Let's try 1. Now the nice thing is here, once I've done all that work, how do I plug in a 1? All I've got to do is just replace every place I had a negative 11, just turn it into a 1 inside the parentheses. See how easy it is? And then I get 36 on the left and 36 on the right side of the equation. So that did make it true, didn't it? So that's our only solution is 1. Okay, so we could go down and when I give it the check. Whoops, that's not the check. There we go. And if I go into Moodle, where is that problem? Right there. So my only answer is 1. Sometimes they'll both work. In some cases, neither one of them will work. Okay? Make sense? All right. Have at it.